Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. This week we are learning about fables and writing. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what fables are, and then I want to help you start to come up with ideas on how maybe you can make your own story. So let's get started. Fables, what are fables? Fables are a type of story, but not every story is a fable. Fables need two things. Can you remember what they are? The first thing is animals that act like people. Maybe they talk, maybe they wear clothes, animals that act like people. Now, what is the second thing that fables need? It's kind of maybe a strange word. You might not be used to it yet, but that word is a moral. It needs a moral. So what is a moral? A moral is the lesson that we learn at the end of a story, right? It's what when we walk away from it, we see what those characters did. We see how they acted in that story, and then we decide, like, how do I want to act? How can I become, better? How can I maybe become more helpful? How can I take care of people? How can I work hard? Things like that. Those are all examples of morals from a story. All right, so fables have to have two things: animals that act like humans, and a moral at the end of the story. So we've talked in the past, we talked before about the Three Little Pigs. We're not going to go over the whole story right now. If you want to watch that video, you can watch the first video from this theme, and we'll go over, that's the video where we do the whole Three Little Pigs story. But just really quickly, let's do a quick rehash of that story. In that story, there were let's grab the pigs first. In that story, there were three pig brothers, and they needed to build houses. The first pig brother was pretty lazy, and he decided to use hay for his house. Not a very strong material, but it's pretty easy because it's not heavy at all. It might be easy for him to use. The second brother used sticks for his house. Again, not super strong, maybe stronger than the hay, but still not very strong, still kind of a little bit lazy. The third brother used bricks, which are a really strong choice, maybe the best choice, especially for these three choices. Maybe the best choice, but it's the hardest one to use. So he had to work the hardest. These two brothers here, maybe they were feeling a little bit lazy, but this third brother in the learning tree colors definitely was working the hardest. So now, when those brothers built their houses, they built three different houses. Here, just so you can see, here was the strongest house. This was the third brother's house, the one that was made out of bricks. Now, during that time, during that story, a wolf comes, and the wolf tries to blow down the houses. And of course, he blows down the hay house, and he blows down the stick house because he's trying to eat those pigs. But when he gets to the brick house, he tries to blow it down, and he can't. And then he tries to climb down the chimney, and he ends up in a pot of soup, wolf soup for dinner. So the moral of that story, of course, it had the talking animals, so we know that first part is a part of a fable. But the moral is we always should work hard. We should always try our best. Like that last pig that used, even though it was difficult to use bricks, he used bricks because they were the best choice. And so we should act like that too in our lives. And so that is, again, that's a great example of a fable. But now maybe you want to try writing your own stories, your own fables. And it's a really nice thing to do because, you can take any idea that's inside your head and you can pull it out and put it down on paper and you can share it with other people, right? And even if you don't share it, even if you just keep it for yourself, you can read your own thoughts. And it's really nice. It's a nice way to get your own ideas out, because when you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can do anything you want. You can write any story that you want. It's okay. But let's talk about what we need. If we're going to write a story, what are the things that we need to think about? You might think, I want to write a story, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to start my story. So let's go over this story and talk about some of the things that a story has, and then we'll talk about, the process. How can we do this? So, of course, let's look at some of these parts of a book. Some of the parts of a book or a story. Got some cards here. All right, so title. if you're writing a book, you should definitely choose a title because, if somebody else was going to read it, when they look at the title, that's like the name of your book. And when they see the title, it helps them know what your story is about, right? Our story is The Three Little Pigs. What is our story about? Is it about 3 bananas? No, it's about 3 little pigs, right? So that title helps the reader, the person who's going to read your story, learn a little bit about it and decide, do I want to read that book? So title, that's definitely something you should think of, but you don't need to think of your title first. You just maybe eventually need to think of a title. All right. Now, very important, we need a setting. Now here, we've got 2 things. What is a setting? Number 1 says, where is the story taking place? So where is the story? So for the 3 little pigs, it's sort of in a sort of a forest or a field, that type of setting, right? Now, maybe you've watched a movie like Finding Nemo. That whole story takes place in the ocean or in a fish tank, right? That's the setting. There's stories that take place in space, where the setting is space. There's different, stories that take place in different countries, small characters that live in the grass, or, big characters that live in the mountains. So where does the story take place? That is the setting. Now down here, there's another point. What time of day is the story taking place? Now that can mean a couple things. Not just what time in the day. It could be morning or afternoon or night, but it could also be the past or the future, right? If you think of past, means like things that happened a long, long time ago. That's sort of fun. If you wanted to write a story about, knights riding on horses, or, people discovering a new land that no one's ever been to, then maybe you want to write your story in the past, right? But if you want to write about, spaceships flying through space, then maybe you want to write about the future, right? Maybe in the future, we'll have spaceships that we can fly all around in, not just astronauts, but anybody. So where is the story and when is the story? That is the setting. Those are 2 things that are definitely important for you to think about while you're planning your story, deciding what you want to write. Okay, characters. We can't really have a story without characters, right? In our story here, we had our 3 little pigs. Here they are again down here. If you don't have 3 pigs and a big bad wolf, it's not going to be a very fun story, right? So here, let's read these points. What do we need for characters? Well, number 1, what are characters? Who is the story about? Who is the story about? Now, we can go into some more details like this. Number 2 says, who's the hero? That means like, who are the good guys, right? Now, not all stories have good guys and bad guys, but maybe your story does. So who's the hero? And number 3, who's the villain? Villain means kind of like the bad guys. So can you see on this paper, where are the heroes? Where are the heroes? Over here or over here? Over here or over here? The heroes. All right, the heroes are over here, these pigs, especially the oldest brother pig that built the really strong house. He's sort of the hero, the one that saves the day. Now, who's the villain? Well, the villain is kind of like the bad guy, right? Now, the villain in the 3 Little Pigs story is, over here, right? And the wolf is the villain because he wants to eat the pigs. He might not be a bad guy, maybe he's just hungry, but in this story, the wolf is the villain. So when you are thinking about your story, you definitely need to come up with characters. Very important. Settings, characters are going to be some of the first things that you're going to think about when you want to write a story. All right, so let's take a look at the process. So in our 3 Little Pig story, and for you too, if you're thinking about a story at home, we got to think about things like what happens first. Once you have your characters, once you have your setting, what is going to happen first in your story? So let's see here. What happened at the beginning of the story? So in the 3 Little Pig story, we can remember, what happens in the beginning? There were 3 pigs, they needed houses, and so they decided to build their houses. One brother built his house out of hay. One brother built his house out of sticks, and one brother built his house out of bricks. That's the beginning of our story, right? Nothing really good or bad has happened yet. 3 pigs built 3 houses. That's the beginning of our story. All right, here's another important word, next. What happened in the middle of the story? So, okay, well, we know the pigs already have their houses. What happened next? Can you remember the 3 little pigs? What happens next after the pigs build their house? What happens next? The wolf comes. Yeah, the wolf comes. When the wolf comes, he comes and he wants to eat those pigs and he tries to blow down the houses. And can he blow down the hay house? Yeah, definitely. Can he blow down the stick house? Yep, blew him right over. Yep, that's what happens next in our story. And when you're writing a story, that's what you have to think about too. What is going to happen next? All right. We can use some other words too. For example, then. That's another good thing to use in your story, right? Next, then. Now, what happened in the middle of the story? Then is also a sort of middle of the story word, right? So next, the wolf went and blew down the houses. Then the wolf went to the 3rd house, the brick house, right? It's another like sequence word. What happens in, first, second, third, fourth, fifth? That's like a sequence, an order for the story. And next, then and next are both sequence words. They're words that tell us the order of things that are happening in the story. Ooh, here's a cool word. Finally. Finally. Finally means what happened at the end of the story. Finally means at the very end, this is what happened. So we can see here in this picture, we've got the bowl of boiling water down here at the bottom. We've got a wolf about to go down the chimney. You can see he's smiling in this picture. He doesn't know that there's a big bowl of boiling water down at the bottom. He doesn't know that it's going to be wolf soup soon. So anyway, finally, what happens in the 3 little pigs? Well, finally, the wolf climbs down the chimney and falls into a bowl of soup. All right, so there we go. First, next, then, finally. These are some of the things that you need to think about when you're planning out what your story is going to be about, right? Now, I think, okay, so if you're sitting down, you're deciding, I do want to write a story, but I don't really know where to start. Well, right now we're working on fables, so why don't we try writing a fable? So we need 2 things for a fable. We need animals that act like people, and we need a moral. So I think if you are trying to write a fable, the most important place to start is with the moral. I think that's the best place to start. Because once you have your idea of what you want your lesson to be, what you want people to learn, then you will know how to write it. You'll know what to do, what gets you to this place, right? It's kind of like if you know where you're going, right? If you're going to go to the grocery store, if you decide where you're going, then figuring out how to get to the grocery store is a little bit easier. But if you don't know where you're going, then it's hard to figure out where to go, right? It's hard to decide, should I go left? Should I go right? If you don't know where you're going. So, okay. So the best thing to start with is a moral. Remember, a moral means something that you want to teach people. So it could be, always try your best. It could be nice to everyone. Our rules, like our learning tree rules, those are a really, really great place to start for morals, right? Now, maybe not speak English only is a little bit difficult to do as a moral, but definitely be nice to everyone. Definitely, trying your best, definitely being brave. Those are definitely good choices for a moral. So I think, why not try starting with one of those? Pick one of those rules and use that as your moral, right? Oh, I want to teach kids to always try their best. Or, oh, I want to teach kids to always be brave, to know not to worry about making mistakes. Or I want to teach kids about being nice, maybe sharing, something like that. So can you pick which rule you think you might want to write your story about? Which one of those rules it would be sort of maybe your favorite, you think is the most important to teach kids, other kids? All right, do you have your moral? Do you have your lesson? Okay, good. All right, now we need to start thinking about, once you have your moral, Now we have to start thinking about our characters and our setting. Okay, our characters and our setting. Now, there's a lot of things you can choose from, but because we're writing a fable, it's definitely going to be an animal, right? So you definitely need to pick an animal. Now, if you're writing, this is maybe your first time writing a fable, it's probably a good idea just to pick one animal to start out with, or just a couple animals. You don't want to have too many characters in your story because it makes it quite difficult to write. But let's see here. I have two shapes here, and I'm going to help you come up with your first sentence for your story. Now, a good way to start a story is once upon a time. All right, that's sort of a line that we use. We use it in fables, we use it in fairy tales. It just sort of means like sometime, maybe a long time ago. We don't really know when. So it's a nice way to start a story. Once upon a time, there was who lived in something like that. So now what I want you to do is I've got these two shapes here. And when I show you the square, or when I point to the square, the blue square, what I want you to do is I want you to say, with your mouth, say your animal that you're choosing. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a cat. Once upon a time, there was a monkey. Once upon a time, there was a penguin. All right. So this blue square is going to be the animal that you are going to say. So first of all, think carefully. What do you want your character in your story to be? Think quickly. Now, you don't have to worry too much. You can write as many stories as you want. So for now, just pick any animal that you like. Okay, 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, when I hold this up, I want you to say your animal. Ready? On your mark, get set. Good. All right. So that's your animal. All right. Now, this pink circle, this is going to be a place, the setting of our story. So this is going to be, the forest or the ocean or the beach or at the Kiba Park or something like that. This is going to be a place. When I hold up this pink circle, you are going to say the name of a place. So think right now, what place do you want your story to take place in? Right now, also think about your animal, because you might want, for example, if you have a monkey as your animal, then do you think the ocean is a good place for your story to take place? Maybe not, because monkeys don't usually live in the ocean. Now, maybe in your story, the monkey is a sailor and he sails around on a ship or something like that. That's possible. But you want to make sure that your setting and your characters are a good choice, that they match together well. So, okay. 5 more seconds to think about your setting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, do you have your setting? When I hold this up, I want you to say what your setting is, like the ocean or the forest. Okay, ready? Your mark, get set. Good. Okay, so now we've got our 2 parts. We've got our character and our setting. Ready? When I hold a shape up, I want you to say that word, either the character word or the setting word. Are you ready? Did you say your character? Good. Did I trick you? Did you think I was going to hold up the pink circle? All right, there we go. Okay, so now that we've got these two things for you to sort of remember what to say, I'm going to help you with your first sentence. Once upon a time, there was a who lived. Okay, now you're going to have to choose what those are. So once upon a time, there was a. Did you say it? It should have sounded something like this. Once upon a time, there was a penguin. Or once upon a time, there was a dog. Something like that. Now, get ready, because we're going to use the setting next. And that's going to be, in the ocean or at the beach or at Kiba Park or something like that. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a who lived. Did you get it? If you got it, if you said both parts, that's the first sentence for your story. Once upon a time, there was a penguin who lived on the beach. That could be a story, right? Now, maybe my story is about always trying your best. So I've already got a penguin. I've already got a place, the beach, and I know that the story is about always trying your best. right? So that's a good place to start so that you can make your own story. So the first thing I might have to think about is, what is going to happen first in my story? Now, when you think about what happens first in a story, you probably want to think about, what sort of problems are there? And then we can figure out how to fix those problems. And so, for example, in our Three Little Pigs, the first sort of little problem is that they needed houses and they had to build their houses. And then the second big problem is that there was a hungry wolf that was coming to try and eat them. So that was sort of two problems inside the Three Little Pigs story. And then what were their solutions? Well, the solution for the houses was to, build 3 houses using hay or sticks or bricks. And then the solution for the wolf was to go and hide with the oldest brother who built his house out of bricks. That was the solution for that story. Now, you want your solution to fit with the moral, right? So if your moral was, be brave, mistakes help you grow, then you want the solution. How do they fix the problem? Well, they fix the problem by being brave. So if I'm writing a story about a penguin on the beach and maybe my penguin feels shy, maybe my penguin has a performance coming up like show and tell, right? Oh, that's like humans, right? Because usually penguins don't have show and tell. But maybe my penguin is really nervous about it, and in the end, my penguin tries his best and really works hard, and everyone claps their hands, and the penguin feels really, really good. Well, why does he feel good? Because he was brave and because he tried his best. And then he learned, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. So you can see my moral, be brave, mistakes help you grow, something like that, be brave, was the thing that fixed the problem. By being brave, that penguin was able to solve the problem. So that's how you can work on your story, right? Start with a moral. What do you want to teach kids about? What do you think is important for people to learn? What are your characters? Where does your story take place? You don't have to have good characters and bad characters. In my penguin story, there was no bad guy. It was just a penguin who was shy or nervous. So you don't need a good guy and a bad guy. You can if you want. That's also okay. That can also be a really fun story. But you want to make sure that how do your characters solve their problems? They solve it with the moral. They solve it by trying their best. They solve the problem by being nice to everyone. They solve the problem by using those things that you want to teach people. So, okay, I hope that you have a lot of fun thinking about different stories, thinking about different characters, different settings, and trying to come up with ways to teach other people, how to follow the rules or how to, be a better person or a nicer person, things like that. And when you're doing that, you can have a lot of fun being creative, making your own stories, and also helping other people around you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great time writing your story. Bye-bye.